Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for showing up. I was worried no one would come. I just want to thank Kay and the Historical Society for Kay tracked me down at Adventureland Gallery, which is Tony Fitzpatrick's place, and I had a photo show there, and she talked about doing a photo show with the Historical Society, and then the next thing I know, there was going to be this talk. But these are the photos. They're all shot in Rogers Park over the years. They all are for sale. You can take them off the wall and take them home. With that said, I'm going to introduce my longtime friend and partner, Katy Hogan, and we're going to talk a little bit about many different things we have remembered over the last few days about activities that we would say are political or progressive that we know have gone on in this ward, in this area, since both of us first came on the scene. So Katie's going to start off.
All right, enough of that clapping. It's great to see everybody. It's very cool you're all here. Thank you. I'm going to start because I came to the neighborhood before Michael. And the reason I came to the neighborhood before Michael was my mother went to Mundelein College in the 40s and got herself a chemistry degree. And so one of her girlfriends became a BVM, which we used to call the Boom. Blessed Virgin Mary, Sisters of. They ran Mundelein, and she would come to visit her friend, and she would usually bring at least one or two of her 8 children with her so that they weren't on the south side driving her husband crazy. But what I found out was here was the lake right next to the school, right in a neighborhood that looked very, very different from the neighborhood I grew up in on the southwest side. And it was apartments, it was a lot of different kind of people. I liked everything about it. So at 18, many years later, I, applied to, got accepted, and decided to go to college on the other side of the city. I got to live here, but I got to take the train home and pay 10 cents for phone calls, unlike a lot of college students who were away from home for the first time. Mundelein, hey! So unique to Rogers Park was the proximity to the lake and also our street end beaches. And what I didn't know until some years later was those street end beaches remained street end beaches only because of the efforts of Rogers Park, mostly women. The Rogers Park women who organized to save our beaches included our good friend, our later good friend, Toby Prinz. Also, it included the women who started Rogers Park Community Council, Carol Goldman, some other folks. Anyway, they were the ones who put bags of sand together and sent them or brought them to the mayor. That was the original Mayor Daley. In 1962, thousands of bags of sand saying, "Save our beaches." And that is why we have access unfettered and unblocked by large, buildings. So, that kind of, and the thing about saving the beaches, of course, is that that is never done. We've had to do it a number of times again since. And we will again have to do it. So we are following in the footsteps of people like that, who took it upon themselves to be self-determining at that stage in the game for their neighborhood and make a statement about what was precious and protecting it. I think that's an incredibly big
opportunity or challenge?
We're descendants of them. We have to live up to that. Let's see. I'm just trying to read this really small print. We're the descendants of those people, yada yada, and we still do that today. I did walk into Neil Hartigan's office as a 19-year-old to make myself available for political activity, and I was looked up and down, rather rudely, by a couple of white guys. I mean, really white guys who went, who are you? I mean, really, it was like, we don't want anybody, nobody said, nobody know. I mean, it was like the picture of that. And I'm like, I'm Katy Hogan, and I'm here to help elect a Democratic president, or whatever I was doing in 1969. And they said, yeah, we'll get back to you. And I said, well, I'll get back to you. Never. So, Michael's turn.
Katy's always a tough act to follow. I had showed up, I went to Lake Forest College, so I drove through Rogers Park on Sheridan Road on my Triumph motorcycle going to hear jazz down in the city. But I didn't know Rogers Park until I spent the summer in '64 working for some anthropologists in Uptown, hanging out with Southern white hillbillies, we call them at that time, and doing some drinking and guitar playing and just getting to know the neighborhood. I came back 2 years later after having been at Berkeley and gone through the free speech movement, and I was working in an Uptown in a group called Joint Community Union. We were trying to build a union in the neighborhood. And there was another group up here that came out of SDS, Students for Democratic Society, called Movement for Democratic Society and the Citizens, for Independent Political Action. And I did just have correspondence with a guy who was involved with that, Clark Kissinger, who is in some revolutionary outfit today. But he ran for alderman in 1967. He got 5% of the votes. And Paul Wogoda, I think, won and later went to prison. They also tried to run 3 people for state rep and got kicked off the ballot. I was out in Clear Lake, Iowa at SDS convention along with Bob Lawson, who's over here. We had a great motorcycle ride that he'll never forget, heading out there. And while we were there, we got the news that the Joint Community Union had been busted, and so had the SEPA office. So Rogers Park was on my radar, and that's when I first remember knowing about it. I came back in 1969. I was, after Join ended, I was working with other people to start an organization that we thought would spread what we were doing around the city, and we were trying to organize white working class youth. That's a lot in the news these days, like the only people who voted for Trump were white working class people. That's it. But we were going to start a group called Rising Up Angry around a newspaper. And some of you may have seen scribbled on the walls that preceded Clark Devon Hardware, things like Off the Pig, Power to the People. We were hanging out, we were working for Bud and Arts Delivery. There was a Shell station over on Ashland Avenue, and we would go to various grocery stores, we'd pick up the boxes, and then we were the porch climbers. We'd up and down the stairs. And we got to know a group of young guys who would be ditching school and helping us called Clark Devon. They were the little kids around a bigger gang, which some of you may remember the name TJO, Thornhill Jaga. So we were, and one of them just got out of jail, I was told today. But we spent a lot of time running around the neighborhood delivering groceries and talking about the revolution. So that was my introduction to Rogers Park. And little did I know that I would end up being here for the rest of my life. You ready? You next?
I am, unless there's someone else to tell. There was something that you didn't say, and that was something about young people doing a curfew action. Right. But since you didn't say it,
you're gonna get to.
I get to. In 1971, I was living in the first apartment I lived in on Columbia Avenue, east of Sheridan Road. Yeah. Believe it or not, yeah. It was like 5 of us on the first floor of a 2-flat, paying like $55 a piece. Well, there were 5 of us, and having the greatest summer of our lives, basically. We did make a list of how many people crashed in those 3 months. It was stellar. Anyway, there was one night in that summer where all of a sudden there were helicopters and all kind of activity at the beach, and we went out to see what was going on, and it was this activity, this action against the curfew. It was protesting the curfew. And it was not people that we knew from the neighborhood. It was outside agitators. Dang it, I bet they were paid. No, that's only now. Anyway, what I remember most about it was my roommate Felicity breaking up a fight in the alley where some guy was beating up or trying to beat up a photographer because he was saying, he's with the pigs, he's taking pictures, he's a pig. And Felicity's going, what if he is a pig? Stop beating up on him. And she really stopped him and stopped him from taking the guy's camera and stopped him from, destroying it. And it was the only time I ever saw a lineup of police in riot gear on Sheridan Road. And the helicopters with their shining lights down on the beach. And we were all like, hey, our neighborhood doesn't do this, but they did that night, 71. Okay.
What I remember is, and I was not here for that, but I remember some people coming back from the action to Rising Up Angry or wherever we were, and just talking about their hassle with the pigs. And, Katie and I have not always agreed. I would bet there were some people from the neighborhood who were involved. Rogers Park is bigger than just our little Lewis corner, but, so I don't know. So anyhow.
Yeah.
So what we were also we were kind of thinking about was the influence, what makes Rogers Park what it is, and the kind of progressive place it's been. I mean, in part it was that you had I think that you had a population of black people living here that probably was closer to the suburbs at that time. You had the university here, the two universities at the time. I'm not sure, I teach geography class with the geography department at DePaul, and geography encompasses everything. So I don't know what it is about the place, the water, the the population, but by the time Katie and I showed up here again to do the Heartland, the neighborhood was about a third white, about a third black, and about a third Latino. And which to me was kind of a gift from the gods. I had always tried to figure out how we would get more and more people to get together, and how we would have a diverse community. And Rogers Park, somewhat like Uptown, had all kind of people living here. And there was a counterculture developing. There was Round Records where Katie worked. There were various little stores up along Clark Street. There was secondhand.
Little King, Sir Whoopi. I worked at all of them. I smelled like grease for years. That, in fact, was my only food service experience before this job. Which explains the grease. The counterculture, we've got a picture right there of Earl's old friend, the guy who ran, Michael, who ran Secondhand Blues on Sheridan Road. So there was the hip counterculture. It was smaller, it had nothing on California or other groovy places like Greenwich Village, but Rogers Park had its own identity that way. And we had music, and a lot of bars, and a lot of bicycles, and everybody smoked pot in a certain era. I know, not everybody, but pretty much for a while. And when I met Michael in 1975, yes, it was October of 75.
It was.
And we started working on the Heartland literally 6 months later. So May 1st is when we came into this building and started tearing it up in 1976.
Katie doesn't want me to tell this story, but we were doing
I don't know if it has anything to do with
That's all right. It was an activism. We were doing a concert for the Women's Union with Holly Neer down at the Midland Hotel, and I admit to smoking a joint with some other people in the mezzanine, and Katie came by and said, "Can I get a hit?" So we went and played volleyball the next day, and then I started bending her ear about a restaurant.
That's right.
I had been teaching at Columbia College, and I had this notion of a mini progressive economy that would allow people to work a job, serve the community, and have free time to do political work. we were about organizing, we were about developing cadre or organizers, and Katy and I, we hit it off, and we ended up being pretty close friends all of our lives now. And I do have a wife and kids. There's two, my wife and Paige and Hal. Hi there. But I was sitting in Chester's Hamburger King, that's down from the Cubs Park over there, and I was trying to find a place where we could open a people's restaurant. And a guy named Jack Bornoff said, I know a place, Lackey's Steakhouse. And that's what was here. Lackey's Steakhouse had 2 storefronts. In the old days, and we met people over the years who came in and said they delivered groceries, or there was a grocery store. Andy Davis, the filmmaker, lived next door when he was a kid, and he talks about the fish store that was here. There was a lot going on. We came up here, after I learned about the place, we came up, Katy says, I know that place, I ate there. And we came up, Lackey's was closed.
I had my first lobster.
And they probably bought it at the Jewel.
Which was over.
Really didn't sell lobster, Michael.
Where do you think they would have got it? He got everything else at the Jewel. Okay, so Lackey's Steakhouse was here. We came up here. It was kind of a cold and a rainy day. It was in February. Stormy, who was also here, was a co-founder, was my first wife.
Opened this place with us. Stand up,
Anyhow, we came up here and we're looking around, and this place there was some tables in there. There was 2 storefronts that, you know, the walls were all together then, and there was a TV repair shop here, and the Independent Voters of Illinois was in where the Buffalo Bar is. And you know, on this cold and kind of rainy day, all of a sudden the sun came out, and there was a rainbow. And I said, oh, this is it. You know, we could have an outdoor cafe right here. And so on May 1st is the day Katy was talking about. We actually have some film footage of throwing stuff in dumpsters and Katy doing cartwheels. So someday we'll get that on DVD around the world. But the intention early on at the Heartland was to provide not only a service to the community, inspire the workers and the customers to go forth into the world, to do good in the world, and to make a little money so you can make that happen.
Yeah, so basically, you know, why talking about activism in this space makes sense is because of what Michael just said. One of our 3 stated missions was, I mean, we stated good wholesome food for the mind and body for Chicago's myriad of residents, good decent jobs for comparatively in the industry that people could enjoy, and you know, and third was to be a center in the community for information and anything people needed about issues that we thought were important. So in that time, starting in '76, meant we were in place for David Orr's election. We were, his campaign office was in this building on the Glenwood side.
This wasn't Kreloff's.
His was. No. His was. Kreloff's was. What do I know? I do know that we had David Orr's victory party in this place. Okay. The memory isn't totally shot yet. But part of why activism and talking about it in this place makes sense is that it was always part of what we were from the get-go. And so through the election of David and consolidating kind of an independent mindset and also an understanding and a strengthening of kind of an anti-machine mentality as it was then. And then Richard J. Daley died. We were in the car together when the news came over. And it was like, for a minute, there was a feeling. And I said to Michael, nice phone there, Craig. You managed this place for a while. I said to Michael, do you feel the release of all that power? Do you feel that power is being released and it's floating around waiting for us to do something with when the day that Mayor Daley died? And that was kind of real to us. It was a big deal. So David won the election locally. The neighborhood was like alive with activism and people doing things. David invited people into the helping of the governing of our neighborhood. That was the notion of independence, was you all get a say. And I come back, I am responsible to tell you what goes on downtown, which he did all the time, regularly. He explained to us how it worked. He made us smarter by including us. I'm saying it specifically because this is what we still need. We still need more of this. Also what was going on at that time and in here was supporting people of El Salvador, people of Nicaragua, and people of Guatemala. Our nation was, of course, giving financial aid to Central America, which was going into the pockets of creeps and dictators who killed their own people, basically. And so we had a lot of activity here. Every single Valentine's Day was a dance for CISPES for many years. No, CISPES.
And then for that.
I'm sorry. This one I know for sure. It was CISPES.
There were a few.
Okay, anyway. We did tons of benefits for tons of organizations. It was one of the reasons that the spirit shone on us, because it was not our economic brilliance or our business acumen. I believe we were allowed to stay open because we had a purity of motivation. We continued to feed people who showed up and said, I have no money, but I'm hungry. I do believe that the magic of that stuff actually works. I'm here to say the Heartland survived long enough for Tom to buy it 5 years ago because of magic in the universe.
One of the things that we did talk about in our notes when we were sitting around the other day was we probably lost some business because of our politics. I was always surprised to meet a kind of a conservative Republican who came in to eat. And I said, well, you're always welcome here, but we certainly don't agree. And there were always people who probably, that food sucks and they got terrible politics, but there were also people who adored us and supported us for years. And I wanted to go back to when we were talking about Toby Prince and the, fighting the high-rises along the lake. She was a retired school teacher, and there were also, she and a number of people were probably pretty close to the Communist Party. So there were always people in this neighborhood who were progressive. And there were and still are people who are active in the community who never came to the Heartland, or, it wasn't because of us. There were plenty of people who saw the world needed some help and repair, and were active in various ways doing that. But we did spawn a lot of stuff out of here. Culturally, I remember Charlie Hayden, the great musician out of Iowa. He was here doing a benefit for the Nicaragua Solidarity Committee. We did have the Jefferson Starship in here a couple times. We did. You guys should have paid closer attention back then, but no, that's a joke. Gracie was, but Kander was here. And he was a pain in the ass. There were people who started to show up here. I mean, we know about the Puerto Rican nationalists who Obama just released from prison. I know there were some little secret meetings that went on here before they disappeared. When the weathermen came up from underground, a lot of them showed up here to talk to me. There were AIM people here, before the Wounded Knee. There was just a lot of people who came through the Heartland, and there is an article we did in the Heartland Journal, which we started putting out in '79, called a Rebel Cafe, and it was what's the guy's name, Paige? The guy who wrote the
Gary Snyder.
Not Snyder.
No.
The New York guy. Come on. Anyhow, he wrote a thing, Hymn to a Rebel Cafe, and it was about throughout history there being places. What's that? Ed Sanders. Yeah, and we ran some stuff from him, and historically throughout history there have been places that spawned activity, And we saw ourselves in that kind of in that role. What's next, Kate?
Just that, we mostly want to get you guys' reactions and feelings about this. But you can see from the pictures on the wall, there came to be something before you ever heard of the Colbert bump. There was something called the Heartland Boom. And that was what brought, it started after Harold Washington walked through this door 2 nights before his primary victory, February 20th, 1983. Yes. So sweet. It remains the sweetest moment for me because the 7 years of blood, sweat, and tears that it took to keep this joint open long enough to give him a stage were all washed away that night. It's all good.
Tell them about the police and all the stuff around that.
No. Yeah, police were fun. I'll blame him for that because they knew about he kept publishing this picture of him trying to tip over a paddy wagon. He continually pissed off the police. I mean, he just
around the world.
And he never actually flipped it over. But anyway, I kind of kept my stuff a little on the down low. Closing down Sheridan Road in Cambodia, 1970. I don't have pictures of me doing that. No. Anyway, so Washington came here. It was so beautiful. He walked in. He's walking in, and we still have the wall up over there, and there's all these people outside. It's February. They've been waiting. Version. He was always late. So people are out there. People are inside. It's packed. By the time he comes in, and people know, he's here. And they're chanting, Harold, Harold. And Michael is bringing him in through the door, and Harold says to Michael, where am I? And Michael tells him, you're at the Heartland Cafe. And then he comes in through the door, and I hand him a T-shirt that we had made, called Irish for Washington, with a fist holding a shamrock. Which I was too chicken shit to unfold in the bar on the Southwest Side. I have to admit. I was afraid. Anyway, when he saw that and he saw the crowd, he goes, well, they should call this the Unity Cafe. That's how he opened his remarks. So we were blessed. We were blessed with him. Before he had come, we had Cesar Chavez here.
Cesar Chavez comes, and I show him my jazz collection in the back, and he says, would you mix me some tapes of some of these? I said, sure. He made a stack of records this high, literally, that he wanted me to make tapes, and I never got around to it.
So much for that. We did at least not eat grapes for a decade. No iceberg lettuce either. I think basically, besides all the wonderful events that happened here, I think that the sense was this, that it's okay to be active, that it's okay, it's actually natural to care about where you live and to try and make it better, to get involved, to, like in '96, it was when we had to save the lakefront again from some inappropriate, out-of-scale comfort station that they wanted to build right on the very beautiful knoll where we had Casey Blue's baptism ceremony. Very special place. And we said no. And we all gathered inside the construction fence that appeared and said, and I called the alderman and said, unless you want a Tiananmen Square on your hands, you better call off the bulldozers. And he had the smarts to do so. But what it is everybody wants to live in a place like this, I think. Everybody wants to live in a place where they know each other, where they feel safe, where they can see all kind of people walking down the street safely, and where businesses are supported because people understand if you don't support them, they don't last. So I really, what do you want to say?
I want to talk about the Democratic Party.
How boring.
No, it's not story. This is important. I had been, reluctant to be involved in electoral politics, and Katy led me. She's been my leader on a lot of things, and she kind of got me involved with the local Democrats, and David Orr, and I was seeping in. So we had an independent alderman at one time that followed David, and that would be Joe Moore. And I ended up, at his request and David Fagas's request, being the head of the president of the Democratic Party. And so for a while I thought, we were rolling, we were working with the Democrats, we had a real progressive force. And by the time the Chewy campaign came around, I had to say to Joe on a number of occasions, Joe, I'm having a hard time defending you out there. He said, oh, but thank you very much. And we had a majority on the steering committee, which is really at the alderman or the ward committeeman's pleasure. It's not like we have a lot of power, but we had more Chewy people than Rom people. And David Fagas, who I think was getting to be better and better all the time, he basically, I had talked about that we want to be able to use the office to make calls for Chewy and all that. Joe basically, after David died, Joe wanted to be the ward committeeman too. And we had thought that it should be someone who was a Chewy supporter. So with that said, we ended up leaving the Democratic Party, and there is a group now that Katy should talk a little bit about called Network 49. Which is like a rebirth of the original Network 49, which was David Orr and those people outside the Democratic Party. We did it again. It's a formidable group, and we do have a meeting on Wednesday night at Willie White Park. We just were involved very much in the ward with the No More Charter Schools, so no more charter school expansion. We won that vote. We had 60-some-odd%. Joe is still trying to stick charter schools in the neighborhood. Then came along Bernie, and again we won this award for Bernie. So I think that we are laying the groundwork for probably, I think there will be opposition to Joe's campaign. I wanted to say a couple of things. There are a couple people here, and this had to do with our progressive history. Penny Rosemont is here, and she and Franklin. The late Franklin Rosemont, they ran, and Penny still runs, Charles Kerr Press, which is an old socialist press from the late 1800s, and they used to be over here on Greenleaf, and I'm not sure where you operate from now, but you're still active. And so that's a press that has put out many wonderful books. Let me see, do we want to talk? I wanted to say one thing that I think is a serious issue that we got to address. And there are a lot of people, one of the things about this neighborhood was its diversity. And we loved it. We loved that there were all these different kind of people here. But I think there's a challenge to that. There's a lot of people who moved into the neighborhood who kind of like the idea of diversity, but they don't necessarily like class diversity. And I think that that's going to keep coming up because we are in a real desirable location. We're close to the university, transportation, the lake, infrastructure repairs, lots of great parks. This is going to keep rearing its head. The whole question of affordable housing is one that not only affects Rogers Park, but affects the country, and it's not going to go away. There are a lot of people who really are just about making money off real estate in the neighborhood. I know we have some more principled landlords and real estate people in some other places, but I would say that that is not the majority. I think that's going to be something that we have to address. Will there be places for people to live? Will we still have this neighborhood for all the people that live here now? And, go ahead. What's
next? I think it's time for you guys.
No, tell them about it. We got the immigration stuff. We got the...
Michael will go on forever. Yeah. Network 49 is a cool thing, and you're all invited. I've got sheets. I'll put them up here to let you know what we've been up to. It is the independent progressive organization for residents of the 49th Ward. And we do a radio show. And we've done a radio show. We've done a radio show from live from the Heartland for over 25 years. We actually don't quite remember when we started. But we were on the stage here in the East Room for eons, and after we sold, we obviously had to move things around, and we're still figuring it out. So currently we do the show half the month downtown at the studio from WLUW, and either the 4th and 5th Saturdays from right here. Things are changing. You may have noticed that the Heartland Cafe is now the occupier of what used to be called Red Line Tap.
And Roy's and the Rogers Park Yacht Club going way back to this.
Yacht Club?
It was called the Rogers Park Yacht Club.
I remember it as Ham's Tap.
Yeah. Came later.
And I
You're not as
vaguely-
old as me, Kate.
That's true. I am not as old as Mike, just in case you...